Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiv Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayanti Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtike. So continuing with the discussion on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, Chapter 17, the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his youth. Text 246 onwards. Vijayacharya ghare se ratre rahila, prata kale bhakta sabe ghare laya gela. That night the Lord stayed at the house of Vijayacharya. In the morning the Lord took all his devotees and returned home. एक दिन गोपी भावे गृहे ते वशिया गोपी गोपी नाम लय विषन्न हया. One day the Lord, in the ecstasy of the gopis, was sitting in his house, very morose in separation. He was calling Gopi, Gopi. एक पड़ुया आइला प्रभु के देखीते गोपी गोपी नाम सुनी लागिला बलीते. A student who came to see the Lord was astonished that the Lord was chanting Gopi, Gopi. Thus he spoke as follows. Krishna namna laukene, Krishna nama dhanya, Gopi Gopi balile ki bahai punya. Why are you chanting the names Gopi Gopi instead of the holy name of Lord Krishna, which is so glorious? What pious result will you achieve by such chanting? It is difficult to understand why Mahaprabhu, Supreme Lord himself, was chanting Gopi Gopi instead Krishna. So that is the mode of ecstasy actually. It is said, Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Vigyena Vujai. No one can understand the activities of a pure devotee. A student or neophyte devotee could not possibly understand why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was chanting the names of the gopis. Nor should the student have asked the Lord about the potency of chanting Gopi, Gopi. The neophyte student was certainly convinced of the piety in the chanting of Krishna's holy name. But this sort of attitude is also offensive. Dharma vrata tyaga hutadi sarva shubha kriya samyam api pramada. To chant the holy name of Krishna in exchange for the achievement of piety is an offense. In exchange for the achievement of piety. This, of course, was unknown to the student because chanting of Krishna's name is not just for piety. We don't chant it just for piety only. It will give us some good benefits later on. No. And thus he innocently asked, what piety is there in chanting of the name Gopi? He did not know that there is no question of piety or impiety. The chanting of the holy name of Krishna or the holy name Gopi is on the transcendental platform of loving affairs. Since he wasn't expert in understanding such transcendental activities, his question was merely impudent. Thus Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, apparently getting angry at him, reacted as follows. Shuni Prabhu Krode Kaila Krishna Doshad Gara Thenga Laya Utila Prabhu Paduya Marivara. Hearing the foolish student, the Lord became greatly angry and rebuked Lord Krishna in various ways. Taking up a stick, he rose to strike the student. It is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam that when Uddhav came from Lord Krishna with a message for the gopis, all the gopis, especially Srimati Radharani, denounced Krishna in various ways. Such denunciations, however, reflect an exuberant, loving attitude that an ordinary man cannot understand. So, ordinary people, those who are not at that level, they cannot understand. Radharani denouncing Krishna in various ways. But such denunciation, Prabhupada writes, however, reflect an exuberant, loving attitude that an ordinary man cannot understand. When the foolish student questioned Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Chaitanya similarly rebuked Lord Krishna in loving exuberance. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in the mood of the gopis and the student advocated the cause of Lord Shri Krishna, Lord Chaitanya was greatly angry. Seeing his anger, the foolish student, who was an ordinary atheistic Smartha Brahmin, foolishly misjudged him. Thus he and a party of students were ready to strike the Lord in retaliation. After this incident, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decided to take sannyas so that people would not commit offenses against him. Considering him an ordinary householder, for in India even now a sannyasi is naturally offered respect. So yes, this is the outer reason. Inner reason was he wanted to taste those mood of Srimati Radharani in Jagannath Puri. And he wanted to give holy names of Krishna so that people can develop love for Krishna. To everybody he wanted to give. But something has to trigger those incidents. So this was the incident that he thought people cannot understand my mood and then they'll commit offense. And I have not come here so people commit offense and then they go to hell. I have come here to give them love of Krishna. भय पलाय पड़ुया प्रभु पाछे पाछे धाय आस्ते व्यस्ते भक्त गण प्रभु रे रहाय. The student ran away in fear and the Lord followed him. But somehow or other, the devotees checked the Lord. Prabhu re shanta kari anila nij ghare paduya palaye gela paduya savare. The devotees pacified the Lord and brought him home, and the student ran away to an assembly of other students. Paduya sahasrayaha pade ekatai prabhura vrittanta dvija kahetahaya. The Brahmin student ran to a place where 1,000 students were studying together. There he described the incident to them. In this verse, we find the word dvija, indicating that the student was a Brahmin. Actually, in those days, only members of the Brahmin class became students of Vedic literature. Schooling is meant especially for Brahmins. Previously, there was no question of schooling for Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, or Shudras. Kshatriyas used to learn the technology of warfare, and Vaishyas learned business from their fathers or other businessmen. They were not meant to study the Vedas. So schooling means just for Vedas. It wasn't to learn some technical knowledge. At present, however, everyone goes to school and everyone is given the same type of education, although no one knows what the result will be. The result, however, is most unsatisfactory, as we have seen in the Western countries especially. The United States has vast educational institutions where everyone is allowed to receive an education. But the result is that most students become like hippies. So yeah, this education system, in India, the Gurukul system was the best. Why? So all the students would go to Gurukul, and then after some time, because Guru or the Acharya there, he wasn't working just for salary. He would take Guru Dakshina, not salary. So he would give full importance to all the students. And then he would see their behavior, see what are their qualities. Then he would decide, okay, this boy would be a Brahman, this boy will be a Kshatriya, a Vaishya, or Shudra. And then they would get training accordingly. Not that till 10th class, we have to study everything, at least in India, and then we decide, okay, commerce or science or whatever. But everything that we studied till 10th class, I mean, how much we have used. And this is all technical knowledge. There's no scriptural knowledge taught in the schools anyway these days. Further proper rights. Higher education is not meant for everyone. Only selected individuals trained in Brahminical culture should be allowed to pursue a higher education. Educational institutions should not aim to teach technology, for a technologist cannot properly be called educated. A technologist is a Shudra. Sorry to say. Only one who studies the Vedas may properly be called a learned man, Pandit. And the duty of a Brahman is to become learned in the Vedic literature and teach the Vedic knowledge to other Brahmins. In our Krishna consciousness movement, we are simply teaching our students to become fit Brahmins and Vaishnavas. In our school at Dallas, the students are learning English and Sanskrit, and through these two languages, they are studying all our books, such as Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita as it is, and the Nectar of Devotion. It's a mistake to educate every student as a technologist. There must be a group of students who become Brahmins. Without Brahmins who study the Vedic literature, human society will be entirely chaotic. But the problem is technologists. Technology gives them money, and the whole world runs on money. That's where the whole problem is. Actually, money, because of comes with the money is all the respect uh, and the name in the society. Who knows? Who will know a poor Brahmin chanting some Vedic mantras? Nobody bothers these days. So that has become the standard of education. And more so, even the Prabhupada said technologist. A technologist is a Shudra. But these Shudras only decide then because of money and money power, they can buy the political power. Then they decide who will be called a Shudra and who will be called a Brahman. And then they question when Prabhupada says they should not be taught Vedas. Vedas means higher education is only for Brahmins. So the technologists or Shudras, those who are successful somehow materially, then they say that we should not let only Brahmins study the Vedas, we can also study the Vedas. Studying of Vedas is not just sit down and study. One has to have those qualities to imbibe the teachings of the Vedas. And first to understand the Vedas, then to imbibe the teaching, then live accordingly. It's not just a matter of studying, opening the book and studying Vedas. It's a matter of realization. But the problem is nobody cares for all this. And when it says only Brahmins can study Vedas, then there's a social unrest. Oh, this is biased, the Vedas are biased, and we should not study Vedas, we should burn the Vedas, like this person who burned Manu Samhita. Nonsense. Shuni krodha kaila sabha padviyar gan, sabe meli kare tabe prabhura nindan. Hearing of the incident, all the students became greatly angry and joined together and criticizing the Lord. Sab desh bhrasht kaila ekal animai, Brahman marite chahe, dharma bhai nai. Nimai Pandit alone has spoiled the entire country, the accused. He wants to strike a caste Brahmin. He has no fear of religious principles. In those days also, the caste Brahmins were very proud. They were not prepared to accept chastisement, even from a teacher or spiritual master. पुनः यदि आइछे करे मारी बताहारे कौन व मनुष्य है कि करिते पारे. If he again performs such an atrocious act, certainly we shall retaliate and strike him in turn. What kind of important person is he that he can check us in this way? Prabhura nindaye sabar buddhi haila nasham supathita vidyakara nahaya prakasham. When all the students thus resolved, criticizing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the intelligence was spoiled. Thus, although they were learned scholars because of this offense, their sense of knowledge was not manifested in them. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Maya prita jnana asuram bhavam vashita. When one becomes inimical to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, adopting an atheistic attitude, asuram bhavam, even if one is a learned scholar, the essence of knowledge does not become manifested in him. So essence of knowledge, it just doesn't come just by studying the books or learning Sanskrit and grammar or that. No, if one becomes inimical to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, if he does not surrender, take shelter, then he is asura, asuri bhava. Then maya pritagyana, his knowledge will be stolen by Maya. In other words, the essence of his knowledge is stolen by the illusory energy of the Lord. Just like giving the example of Ravan, he had the knowledge of the Vedas, but he did not surrender to Ram. He kidnapped Sita, he stole Sita, in order to enjoy her separately. Instead of serving Sita and Ram, he wanted to enjoy Sita. Means because he didn't surrender, his knowledge was taken away by Maya. So just studying the Vedas is not good enough. And that is why there's this confusion or difference of opinion. He was a Brahman, he studied the Vedas, he shouldn't have been killed by Ram. No, just because somebody studied the Vedas doesn't mean anything if he's not following the teachings. So he wasn't a Brahman, he was an Asur. Asur means who's not a devotee. In this connection, Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur quotes a mantra from Shveta Shveta Upanishad. Yasya deve para bhakti yatha deve tatha guru. Tasya te kathita hi artha prakashante mahat. The purport of this verse is that one who is unflinchingly devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, and similarly devoted to the spiritual master with no ulterior motive, becomes a master of all knowledge. That's the condition to have knowledge. In the heart of such a devotee, the real essence of the Vedic knowledge becomes manifested, of course, by the mercy of the Lord. This essence is nothing but surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vedasya sarver ame ved. Only unto one who fully surrenders to the spiritual master and the Supreme Lord does the essence of Vedic knowledge become manifested, not to anyone else. The same principle is emphasized by Sri Prahlad Maharaj in Srimad Bhagavatam. Iti punsarpita Vishnu bhakti shernav lakshana kriyate bhagavati adha tanmanye aditam uttama. A person who directly applies these 9 principles, hearing, chanting, remembering, etc., in the service of the Lord, is to be understood as a greatly learned man who has assimilated the Vedic literatures very well. For the goal of studying the Vedic literature is to understand the supremacy of Lord Shri Krishna. Manya Adhitam Uttam. See, until we come to that level, then the studies of scriptures is useless. Sridhar Swami confirms in his commentary that first one must surrender to the spiritual master, then the process of devotional service will develop. It's not a fact that only one who diligently pursues an academic career can become a devotee. It's not a fact. Even with no academic career, if one has full faith in the spiritual master and the supreme personality of Godhead, he develops in spiritual life and real knowledge of the Vedas. And actually, Bhakti Vinod Thakur has said someplace that if somebody is a scholar, he has good knowledge of so many scriptures, but he hasn't surrendered, then all his knowledge is like a big burden. It's like a turban, huge turban of gold that doesn't let him bow down to the Lord. So what's the use of all this knowledge? The example of Maharaj Khatwanga confirms this. One who surrenders is understood to have learned the subject matter of the Vedas very nicely. One who adopts this Vedic process of surrender learns devotional service and is certainly successful. One who is very proud, however, is unable to surrender either to the spiritual master or to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, he cannot understand the essence of any Vedic literature. So Bhagavatam declares this, Shabda Brahmani Nishnatu. If one is learned in the Vedic literature but is not a devotee of Lord Vishnu, his work is a useless waste of labor, just like the keeping of a cow that does not give milk. Of course, we'll say, serving a cow is always beneficial, but not from business point of view. Anyone who does not follow the surrendering process but is simply interested in an academic career cannot make any advancement. His profit is only his labor for nothing. If one is expert in the study of the Vedas but does not surrender to a spiritual master or Vishnu, all his cultivation of knowledge is but a waste of time and labor. So all these Brahman students, they didn't surrender to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so they didn't understand his mood. And now they said, we will strike him if he comes here again and comes after us. So that was gone way too offensive. Tathapi dambhika paduya namra nahi haya yaha taha prabhur ninda hasi se karaya. But the proud student community did not become submissive. On the contrary, the students spoke of the incident anywhere and everywhere. In a laughing manner, they criticized the Lord. सर्वज्ञ गोसाई जानी सबार दुर्गाति घरे वाशी चिंतिता सबार व्याति. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being omniscient, could understand the degradation of these students. Thus he sat at home contemplating how to rescue them. See, this is his mercy, complete mercy. He still is thinking of how to rescue all these students who are very offensive. Okay, so we'll stop here and take up the rest tomorrow. See, anybody has any questions or comments? Okay, you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Ram.
Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Jai